Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode we are putting together the ultimate plinking 2x4 target stand. Welcome to Man Time. It's been about a year since I made my last 2x4 target stand, and I made some mistakes along the way, and I've decided I'm going to make a video to show you all the mistakes I made, how to avoid those, and ultimately how to build the ultimate 2x4 plinking target stand. And it's going to involve 3 of these ash and ember plates. You can get these on Amazon. I got a set of 6 with 2 of each size, 10-inch, 8-inch, and 6-inch. And this is 3/8 AR500 Ash and Ember on Amazon if you want to check that out. But yeah, we're going to put 3 of these on the bottom hanging, right? And then we're going to have 2 targets on top of the 2x4. Also, I'm going to go through all the tools and all of the stuff you're going to need. But just to cover the basics, yeah, you're going to need some AR plate. These round ones from Ash and Ember are pretty good. You're going to need some chain, so I went to Harbor Freight, got a bucket O chain. I think this is 5/16. I'm going to go through all the hardware you're going to need, and then you're also going to need some of these 2x4 setups. They've got some specifically like this one made for Target 2x4 Sawhorse setups. So this is going to be also AR plate. I haven't shot so the first one I built with like the cheapest stuff, right? This chain is the same stuff I use. The chain works fine unless you shoot it, and then it doesn't work so fine. But I think you're going to find that with any of the cheaper chain out there. So I splurged on this one a little bit. I went with the upgraded Sawhorse ends that make the Sawhorse up. The last set I got was about 20 bucks for a set of 4. This was like 40 bucks for a pair that makes one Sawhorse, so they're much more durable, much more sturdy. The thing that I found with the cheaper ones that just kind of collapse in, they are very wobbly, like the Sawhorse. So setting it up on a range, you're never going to have like a flat, perfectly flat surface. It's always going to be a little off, at least for me. And having something a little bit sturdier to hold the Sawhorse legs is going to be much better. So let's get right in on the bench here and go through all of the stuff you're going to need for this project. All right, so first and foremost, you are going to need some treated wood, and this is like weather guard, extreme condition. This stuff is meant to be outside, have ground contact, and all of that. I had some leftover stuff from when my barn roof collapsed in during Snowmageddon. I had a couple pieces here that were pretty bent up. So, for this project, it doesn't really matter if they're a little bit bent up. So I've got those, and I've got those all cut to length. I had, so 4 foot is the dimension I would recommend, because you can buy, a 96-inch 8-foot piece, cut it in half. And so you only need to buy 3 of those to complete your one Sawhorse, right? 4 foot times 5 pieces, making up the 4 legs and then the cross piece across there. And then the Sawhorse 2x4 kit from Amazon with a pair of these. That is going to come with, all of the hardware and stuff with it, with an Allen wrench for this piece and these little take-ups here. So all that stuff is included, and that's going to be for like a quick takedown. So yeah, there's that. 5/16 bucket of chain from Harbor Freight. Again, the Ash and Ember plates. While I was at Harbor Freight, I grabbed a kit of impact nut setters, is what they're called. So I've got my nut driver here. You're going to need some white spray paint to spray paint your AR plate there. I like to pre-drill, so the stuff I got, again, 5/16. I got 2 different sizes. I've got 5/16 lag bolts, 1.5 inch, and then 5/16 hardware, 1.5 inch. So you've got the regular nut bolt assembly with some washers to go through the chain and through your plate, and then the lag bolts are going to be going into the 2x4s. So let's start setting this up. So first thing I want to do, first of all, I identified the kind of best 2x4 in the lot here. And next, we're going to start by setting up the legs on the Sawhorses. So let's see if we can do this fairly easily. It looks like for the hardware included with this AR set is going to be 30 seconds, probably metric, right? And this part is fairly straightforward. You've got 3 holes. So you got 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then the, of course, the Allen head there. So I will get these assembled, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, the next step is to lay out where we want all of our plates to hang off of here. So what I'm going to do, and see they're different sizes, right? So you can't really lay it out like, you know, equidistance apart. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure in from where it's going to sit inside the Sawhorse legs. So that's about 4 inches. So that 4 inches on the end is going to be dead there, and then of course 4 inches on the end here is going to be dead. So I'm just going to have, you know, this space in between to work with. So I'm just going to kind of lay out, I think I'm going to want the big one in the middle. So I am going to put a center line in the middle here at 2 foot, and then because that's going to be, you know, middle no matter what. And then in between 2 foot and 44 is going to be, it would be 3 foot, but we're offsetting 2 foot, so I'm just going to put a center mark here. But since, again, it's going to be smaller, it may offset a little bit. And then same thing on this one, 2 foot minus that. So we've got some center marks to kind of align with, but what we're really going to want to do is just put the plate, you know, where we want it to hang, and get an idea of, you know, where we want the chain to land. So if you'll imagine, you know, a wall here, yeah, so that's going to actually probably hang a little bit further offset toward that, being that you've got a, you know, you've got more coming off of this, and so just directly in between is going to be somewhere in there, and then probably put one over here, and just kind of imagine where you want these to be hanging, you know, with one in the center. So these probably are going to be closer, right, and these are going to be a little bit further apart. And then just kind of put some marks on the wood, you know, where you want the chain to anchor to. And you want it to kind of be at an angle, right? So grab your piece of chain, kind of imagine, you know, it's going to be hanging a straight line down, and put your mark, you know, where you want that chain to be, right there. And then similar here, straight down and hanging there. All right, so we've got our marks for our big one. Same thing with the one on the side here. Imagine a straight line down to where you want it hanging. It's going to be pretty close to the same spot there, and then here where you want it hanging. Hole here. And similar situation with this one, straight line down from where it's hanging, right about here, and here, straight line down, and it's going to be hanging here. And you want these holes in the center, so if you wanted to, you could come through, you know, of course a square would have been nice to bring out here with me, which I'm probably going to do here. But it doesn't need to, again, be perfect. So you can just make some marks on what feels like center, you know. And then drill your holes. Oh, hot. and put some marks on here so you know what's going where, right? So when you go to set it up, you got 10-inch here, 8-inch here, and 6-inch here. There we go. All right, from there, we can start putting in our chain. Chain is going to be pretty straightforward. Grab the lag bolts that you got. Get those set out here. I got one, and these are 1/2-inch heads on the 5/16 lag bolts. We got 2 there, 2 here, and 2 more over here. Okay, 1/2-inch, chunk of chain. I think you're going to want to use a washer for these, so I got some kind of like larger washers to hold that chain in place as well. Now the chain, it doesn't have to be tight, like these don't have to wrench down on it, you know, but you can go semi-tight or tight if that's what you want to do. So I will get these all in, and then we'll come back and take a look at it here. Alright, so up until this point, it's kind of been like so easy a caveman can do it, right? This is where you really need to kind of see what you're doing. So I've got my marks on the back side here. 6 inch is going to go on this side. And the thing is, you want to have the bolt head facing the way that you're going to be shooting, right? Big mistake the first time. I had the nut and the threads sticking out the way that I was shooting. Of course, those bullets that are hitting close to the holes are fragmenting and getting into your nut and your bolt. So you have to essentially cut those off. So you want to have the head facing the way that you want it, and you want to have the plates angled away from you, right? So what you want to do there is have the chain behind the target, and then so that way you're not shooting up the chain also. And let's see here. So I've got a couple washers and a couple nuts. So let's do washer, bolt through here, and then another washer against the chain, and then nut. Now you don't really have to have that washer on the front. That washer is going to essentially get chewed up and, you know, broken eventually. But we will go with that anyway. So. Alright, so here we go. We've got the target hanging. It is facing back just slightly, and you've got the head of the bolts up, you know, up range where you're going to be shooting from. That is exactly how you want to set each one of these plates up. And we know, you know, 10, 6, based on our marks and our layout here, that everything is going to kind of work out the same way as that. So let me get those set up, and then we'll take another look at it, talk about the finishing touches on this, and how to set up a target along with the steel. So this is going to have both steel targets and paper targets. So you can do two things. You can sight in your gun if you need to, and then after you get it sighted in, you can go to plinking and really having some fun. Alright, let's take a quick look at the targets here, since it's pretty hard to see, you know, how they're actually laying until you get around to the side here. So you can see all of them are just slightly canted back. If we take a look kind of right down the side here, they've all got a slight angle toward the back. And again, the nuts are on the back side as well. So this is how it's going to look as you're looking at shooting. And next step is going to be to paint all of these white. I did want to note up here on the Sawhorse ends, it's got provisions for a permanent fixture and the hardware to do that if you wanted to go that route. And then they've also got the quick disconnect here with the Allen wrench and these keys. And that's typically what you're going to want to have, right? You're going to want to be able to break this down, put it in the back of your truck, go to the range, or go to wherever you're shooting at and have this all set up. But so far, so good. Next, let's look at how we're going to get a target on here. Finishing touches on this guy is going to be, first, we need to clean off the oils that the plates came with. You know, they were sprayed with an oil before shipping, so they're kind of covered in oil. So we'll get that all sprayed off of there, and then we are going to spray paint these white, and that's going to make them, you know, really kind of pop, and then you can see your hits also. So I'll finish that up, getting those painted, but more importantly, to make this the ultimate Sawhorse shooting is to have an actual target on there. Now, initially when I set my first one up, I had the target hanging down, so I had plates and then target. The problem with that one was, well, two things. I set these up wrong, right? So I set it up with the target on this side, and I was shooting this way, and it was just all wrong. So now it's correct, right? They're angled away, but you want to have a target on there as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a target up on the top here, see if I can get that aligned as good as I can, straight up and down, you know. And then take the time to get a good look at it. Get a couple screws in there. And then you can come around, you know, with your target and staple that onto there and have your targets. Probably going to do 2 targets, right? So we'll have 2 paper targets hanging off each side of the top, and then of course the steel down below. I think that's going to be the perfect setup for a Sawhorse shooting station, if you will. If you could only have one Sawhorse for all of your shooting requirements, I'd say this is probably the best way to go. The 10, the 6, and the 8 are excellent sizes, so let's wrap it up. All right, man. Well, that was the building of the ultimate Sawhorse shooting station. Again, one more target probably right here, and it will be absolutely perfect. That way you can have, if you've got multiple guns, you can sight, you know, multiples in, using one target for each gun. But, I mean, typically with these style targets you can get off Amazon, I really like these. They have the splatter, but with the multiple targets, the 1 MOA is on the corners. I like to start by getting it, you know, semi-sighted in the middle, but the big one, you know, typically I'm aiming for like a corner of that big one, and then with the smaller ones you can really get it dialed in, again aiming at like corners of those red targets there. But yeah, the steel, this should hold up. These are 3/8 plates from Ash and Ember. They were about $80 for that set of 6. Again, buck and a chain, not that bad, about $20 in hardware with some extras, and some leftover chunks of wood, and you know, of course, wood prices and stuff is still not too bad. So I think total build cost on this one, let's see, we've got 80, you know, half of that. So I mean, we can cut it in half. We'll go with 40, and 40 is 80, and then about another $20 in wood, and maybe $10 in hardware. So we're sitting, you know, just over $100 for the perfect 2x4 Sawhorse shooting station. So there you go. If you're looking to build one, hopefully all these tips and tricks were helpful for you. Yeah, if you'd like to, go ahead and subscribe. If not, do whatever you want to do. But whatever you do, get out there, have you some man time too.